All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Radiant Parent Podcast. And if you are watching this on video, you'll notice that I often close my eyes when I'm talking to help me connect more to my heart and what I would love to say and share with you. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to talk about something that's kind of been a theme, which is have-tos in my life recently, and I want to share a story about a particular, we'll say, a group of have-tos that nearly prevented me from getting my business off the ground. It took me some time and some leadership to really let go of those or see an example of how I could do business without these have-tos. So I'm going to share this story, and then I want to go into a little deeper about why we really need to pay attention to when we are living by have-tos. When you say that word, like really become aware of when that's coming up for you and when you are feeling like you're doing something because you have to do something. So I won't go into it yet, but it's really, really important to be able to see this so that you can create more freedom and more flow in your business. Okay, so here's the story. So if you're new to me, you may not know that I'm a certified parent coach. So I love coaching parents, not only because I'm a parent myself and I love being a parent, but also it was just parenting, motherhood was a hugely transformational experience for me. So I began my journey of coaching by learning and going through a parent coach certification course. So basically, this was in 2020 is when I started. So it was right in the first year of COVID. And I decided I needed to go back to work, and I wanted to do something that was really meaningful for me. And that thing I chose was coaching and parent coaching first, because I just wanted to share this deeper experience and transformation with other people and support them in their journey. So anyway, I was like in the last 2 months of that certification, and I had gone through all of the initial training for the parent coaching side, and we were moving into the business coaching to help us get our business off the ground. And I really wanted to hit the ground running with my coaching business, because during that same time, I had signed on to do a year of being a professor of biology and chemistry, and it's not something that I wanted to continue on doing. So I wanted to shift out of that and then really get into coaching. So I hired a business coach, one-on-one business coach, and then also I was moving into that business training portion of the coaching. And on top of that, if you're a coach and you hang out on Facebook, and you're in that world, you have probably seen many, many ads on how to market your coaching business. So you have tons of information flying at you on how to market and what you're supposed to do to get a client. And then I had a business coach, kind of feeding me the same information and then trying to hold me accountable for taking the actions. And I was just living in this space of, I have to do this to get this. I have to do this to get this. And the thing is, I'm formerly an academic, or I still am an academic. I worked hard in school, I worked hard as a professor, and I get stuff done. But for some reason, doing these things to create something that I love, that was me, that was more me than anything I've done before, it was painful and it was overwhelming. And it was so hard for me to feel okay and feel confident in doing these have-tos. So I'm going to go into a little more detail of why, but I want to just first kind of share, like, what were those have-tos? And to be honest, most of these fall under the umbrella of marketing and selling. And if you're a new coach, then you'll also know, like, there is some work to do to become comfortable with the idea of selling. But I think what mostly got me with these have-tos is this have-to of, you need to know exactly what you're helping people with. And you need to know your ideal client. And you need to be able to describe them. And then you need to be able to exactly describe the problem that they have. And you need to be able to, it's like, in order to do all of these things, I have to put myself in a box and my work in a box and who I'm serving in a box and, serve it up nice and pretty. And then use that information to then create a strategic plan to move them from, point A to point B, which was selling my coaching package to them. In that bundle of have-tos, there was, you have to be consistent. You have to be posting on social media, every day or, X number of times per week. And you have to do this kind of post. And then you also have to do this kind of post. And you have to write in this way, right? There were so many have-tos. And I tried to do them. And I did them, actually. I didn't try to do them. I did a lot of these things. And I was able to connect with some people and meet people online. But what I really struggled with is that a lot of these actions felt out of alignment with what was actually important to me. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in particular. But the point of this story is noticing all of the things that I thought I had to do because I was brand new as a coach and I wanted to coach people. And so I listened to other people and their advice. And there's so many people giving advice, including myself. And I was taking it on as like I had to do that in order to create what I wanted. And that was hard for me. And I want you to also kind of put yourself in that place for a minute and feel what that feels like when you say, I have to do this thing in order to get what I want. For me, just saying that, it feels like a weight. It feels heavy. It feels externally motivated, which isn't always bad, but it's not necessarily the way that I work best. And so it really, after trying to do the things that I was told to do, I started to really just feel uncomfortable with it, and I wouldn't follow through. And I, in a number of cases, a number of instances, I would actually just become stuck in inaction because it felt overwhelming to have to do so many things, and especially to feel out of alignment with a lot of these things. And I want you to just, kind of put yourself there and feel that too. And ask yourself, like, is this how I want to live my life? Is this how I want to create my business or create in my relationships when I feel like I have to do something? Like, my hands are tied. I have no choice. I have to do this. It feels powerless, doesn't it? And so this is really what I want to drive home for you today. And, you've likely heard something like this before. You need to just drop and let go of the have-tos and the shoulds. And there's that saying, like, don't should on yourself. Don't should on yourself, right? Because shoulding and have-toing, they are not supportive. And here is what is actually going on when you are living in the land of have-tos. And so if you're here, and you may be here in some parts of your life and not here in other parts of your life, but just begin to notice, how often are you feeling like you don't have a choice in what you're doing? So basically, when you are living in the land of have-tos, then you are allowing yourself to let go of your power to choose. So like in this case of, how am I going to create clients in my business or get clients in my business? I was letting go of my power to choose how I did that. I knew that I wanted to, but I was letting go of my power to choose how I was going to do that by listening to what everybody else was telling me, and then telling myself, I have to do it this way because they know, and I want this end result, so I have to do it this way. And basically, like, have-tos will limit you. No matter what. I cannot think of one example where a have-to is not going to limit you in some way. The more you are able to access your power to choose in every situation, the more you are able to fully embody your power as a being, as a soul, as an entity of love in this world. So here's another thing about have-tos. They can lead you to blaming others for your choices and actions. Blaming others. So I had an interesting conversation with my boyfriend recently about blame and responsibility. And so, there's another theme in the self-development world of taking full responsibility for, yourself, your choices and your actions. So this kind of comes back to the have-tos. When you say, I have to do something, then somehow, it's like something outside of yourself is forcing you to do that thing. And when you live in that way, you're not taking full responsibility for your choice in the matter. So maybe someone else is saying you need to do it this way, but then whether you actually do that is always your choice. You don't have to. You can say no. And then if you do that, then you can blame someone else for that action that you chose. Well, it didn't work because so and so is wrong, right? And you're not taking full responsibility for your choice and the action that you made. Have tos can lead to taking actions that are out of alignment. And this is really where my difficulty was in this particular scenario. Is I ended up taking actions that were not aligned with who I am and what's important to me. And so this is where I've actually, like, there's a whole feeling and mindset that goes along with marketing that I have cultivated over time in my business. And it's, I've had this love-hate relationship with marketing almost, well, not almost, like it has looked like that. But I've been able to come to a place where I can take the actions to market and to sell this service that I offer in a way that is in alignment. And a lot of that began with like the root of why I am doing this. So let me just spell this out a little more clearly. For like initially, and with traditional marketing, a lot of our actions are kind of like externally motivated. And it's a lot about like getting something, taking something. And, it's a mindset too, but it's this feeling that I got from a lot of the way marketing works. It's like I have to get something from someone else or take something from someone else. And so I didn't feel aligned with taking those actions because the whole motivation didn't sit right with me. So I really value honesty and transparency, and I really value loving service and giving, generosity. And so I had to create for myself like a whole different language to speak about how I was going to meet people and serve them and invite them into commitments of coaching and transformation. I had to create a whole different language of talking about it so that the root motivation was love and impact and aligned with my purpose. And so I'll share about that with you on another time. But basically, I created this idea called amplified generosity. And this is the, what would you call it? This is like the vehicle for how I market my business now and my services now. So when you feel out of alignment with an action and you take that action anyway, telling yourself that you have to, like, this can be really dangerous. Dangerous in terms of your ability to trust yourself and be authentic. So if you hang out with me, you'll know that I also really, really value authenticity and this alignment and this connection and service from love, from the heart. Like if I cannot feel that connection to love in the actions that I take, then I don't feel comfortable and I don't feel totally honest or 100% about what I do. And so if that's important to you, then let me know, reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation with you, because that's one thing I really struggled with in the beginning of creating my business and selling my services, was taking actions that didn't feel aligned. So there's a way for us to do this, to sell our services and create clients really that's grounded in love. So if you're feeling like you have to do something to sell your services and it doesn't feel good for you, it doesn't feel aligned, there's always another way to do it. We are super intelligent beings. We are super creative beings. There's always a way for you to find a path that works for you, that feels aligned with you. And in fact, what's really interesting, like now I have come to a point where so much of the marketing side of my business, or how I share about what I do it for me. I do it for me because it's because of who it creates me to be. So it's kind of funny to say that, actually I'm here on this podcast sharing this information to be selfish. I'm doing it for me. Because if you do something that that you want to commit to, if you want to commit to something and be consistent in something, to develop who you are as a business person, as a parent, as a friend, as a partner, whatever, you got to do that for you. So when I chose to start a podcast, it's because I was choosing a way to be with my work and be with the things that I am passionate about in a way that felt really good for me. And then I get to share it with you. And this is how we begin to create a connection with each other. And you can see how the work that I'm doing, I'm living this work. And I'm doing it for me because it creates me as a more loving individual, so that I can love and serve others with even more power, more generosity, and more impact. So there's a little side note about the have-tos, especially in the business and marketing world. But I want to bring in just another example about have-tos in parenting. And again, if you ask my boyfriend, like, I've been bringing up the have-tos a lot lately. But this was something I really worked on early on as a parent, because like as a parent, it can feel like, well, how can I not have to? Right? Like, so if I say, if you say, well, Kim, I have to feed my kids. Well, no, you don't. Actually, you don't have to feed your kids. And you're like, well, Kim, come on. If I don't feed my kids, they're going to scream and yell and, so on and so on. I have to feed my kids. Actually, you don't. You don't have to feed your kids. I mean, if you want them to be healthy, you would feed your kids. But look at this. It comes back to your power to choose. So you're choosing, how do I want to relate with my kids? Well, I want to be loving, right? I want to. I don't have to. I want to be loving. And I want them to be healthy, right? So when I return to what I actually desire and am committed to in my relationship with my kids, then I start to see, well, actually, I do have a choice, because I am already making the choice in how I want to relate to them and what I am committed to being as a parent. And I can see how my actions will follow from that. So I want to feed my kids because I want them to grow strong and healthy, right? I am choosing to do that. I don't have to. I could let them feed themselves. I could, fill the pantry with stuff they can make themselves and they can feed themselves. But I'm choosing to feed them. I'm choosing to house them. I'm choosing to care for them because for me, being a parent is important, and relating to them with love and honoring their health is an important thing. So I'm choosing to feed them. And you can kind of like break down all these have-tos that you have in parenting and start to view them with this question of like, what am I committed to? Am I committed to having a healthy, positive relationship with my children? Okay. So then what choices, what actions am I taking as a parent that come from that commitment? And you'll start to see that you've already decided to have a commitment, and the things that seem like have-tos are actually arising from this choice that you've already made. So you have that power of choice in those actions because you have that power of choice in your commitment to your children, right? There's all different ranges of ways we can parent. And, unfortunately, there's not great parenting, not great support, not great attention and attachment to the, really excellent support and attachment, secure attachment, safe, right? So we have a choice of where we want to lie on that spectrum. I'm thinking of other have-tos. Other have-tos that could be with work and living, right? There was this great have-to, this story that was once shared, and it's just coming to me, so I'll see if I can piece it together. There was a gentleman who shared a post on Facebook that I remember reading, and it was this story about really seeing what he actually has to do. And it starts with this idea of having to do work, right? So if you have a job or you have a business, you may even say, I have to do this in order to make money. And I have to make more money in order to pay your mortgage or pay your rent, right? And as parents, we want our children to live in a good place. So we're even more ground into that have to. But what I would love you to see is this person followed this story of have to, and it kind of also relates a little bit to our fears of not doing the things that we have to do. And he was saying how, well, if I don't have a job, then I can't make money and I can't live in my apartment or wherever they were living. Okay, well, what if I didn't do that? Well, if I didn't make enough money to pay rent, then I could use my tent and go live on the beach. And then there's this fear, well, if I don't do that, then I won't have any friends, or people will disrespect me, or I won't be able to connect with people in the way that I want to, with love and respect. And then eventually in the story, he was actually ended up doing these things where he's traveling and living with not very much income, and on the beach in a tent, right? And he was actually having an incredible experience and connecting with people, creating great friendships and serving people even. And, as a parent, the story may be different, but what I hope you would see is that there's a lot of societal pressure and pressure that we put on ourselves and expectations that we put on ourselves to have a life in a certain way. And we can use that external pressure or norms as have-tos and say, I have to do this so I can have this norm or this societal norm or meet these expectations that are external or maybe even self-created. when you live in that way, you are letting go of your power to make a choice in how you live. There are plenty of examples of human beings who are alive and surviving and maybe even thriving, who are not living the normal life, right? Maybe they do live on a beach and they are serving very powerfully. And they're providing for all of their needs: shelter, food, connection, love, cleanliness, right? There's many different ways to meet our needs. So if you can see that, then you can start to see how the things that you may think you have to do, maybe expectations that you just kind of were conditioned to take on. And it may be expectations that you're actually choosing to live up to. And this choosing, it could be an unconscious choice. But when you start to pause for long enough to think about, well, why am I saying that I have to do this? Is it because I'm committed to having this kind of home for my family? Is it because I'm committed to having this amount of food or this type of food? Is it because I'm committed to having this type of stability in my life? And what you'll find is yeah, you're committed to that. And so in that commitment, again, it can be conscious or unconscious, but I invite you to bring your conscious awareness onto that choice and how you are actually making that choice. So I'm just letting that sink in for a minute. What I would love for you is to really start to see how powerful you are, and that you always have the power to choose. And we all have experiences from childhood or conditioning that it might make it challenging to break through and actually see that you don't have to do things a certain way. Because as kids, we were told that we did have to. But now you're an adult and you get to choose. And the more you are able to see your power to choose in every situation, the more empowered each choice is. When you live in that power, you also then begin to make choices that feel aligned with your truth and with your purpose in this life. And when you start doing that, you begin to live your life from a place of freedom. Freedom, what comes along with freedom for me is this peace, this internal peace. And that is why I am here with you today, to reflect on that power that you have, that I have, that we all have. We all have access to this. To reflect on that and look back in our lives at the choices that we're making, at how often we say to ourselves, I have to do this, I have to do that. And to just stop and pause and see, well, actually, how am I making a choice to do this? How am I responsible for my choice? How does this relate to what I value and what I am committed to? And do I still want to be committed to that? Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that with those powerful questions. I would love to hear your feedback and your thoughts, and tell me if you had any aha moments in listening to this. I'm sure that you are all resonate in some way with the have-tos of business. And if you are feeling overwhelmed by have-tos in your business, this is something that I really love helping people with, because sometimes, when you start living in those have-tos in business, what can happen is either you just do and do and do and do those things, and then eventually you become burnt out, or you get stuck, frozen in inaction, which was more how it was for me. So these have-tos can impact us in different ways. But if you are feeling either frozen in taking action in your business, or you're feeling burnt out and overwhelmed, then I invite you to really, really reflect on what are the have-tos that I am agreeing to in my life, and how can I shift those? How can I see that I actually don't have to, that I'm making these choices? And if you want to change any of those choices, that's where I can help. And I would absolutely love to talk through that with you. It's so important to me that we are all living from a place of freedom and alignment with what is true to ourselves. All right. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you so much for being here and listening to episode 2 of the Radiant Parent Podcast. And I will see you in the next one.